is Fernando with the Sage Executive Podcast. With us today, we got a pretty special guest. I'm excited to introduce him to everyone. So without further ado, really quick, do you mind sharing kind of who you are and what you've been up to?
Absolutely. What's up, Fernando? Thanks for having me. So my name's Chris Ronzio. I'm CEO and founder of a company called Trainual. So think training, manual, training, SOPs, processes, policies, all the how-tos about how your business works, all in one online playbook. And that's what Trainual does.
Exactly. That's fun, developing processes. So I was reading up on your LinkedIn that you've trained like hundreds of entrepreneurs, and then now you've kind of developed Trainual. In all of that, you obviously develop these certain leadership qualities. Right? Nobody does that without developing those skills. So what would you say, I guess, one, what's the best thing about being a leader? And then two, what do you think is, if somebody's aspiring to get to that level, what do you think they need to start working on today?
Good question. All right. So what my favorite thing about being a leader is inspiring and motivating and making people not hate their job. Because it's kind of like, when you were in school and you could get the crappy teacher or you could get the really good teacher that everybody wanted, and if you were in that classroom, your year was awesome.
You're
and
motivated.
I feel like it's the same with the business. You could be the business owner, the leader at any level that people love working for, and it gets them excited to come to work and they're motivated to produce whatever they're doing. Or you could be the leader that's boring, that no one likes, that it's just they're punching the clock and getting to the next job. So I like being the best teacher.
Yeah, big time. And I've never heard of it like that. But when I think of it like that, it's like, yeah, I want to be the cool teacher. Why wouldn't I want to be the cool teacher?
Yeah, absolutely.
So then what would you say the skills that somebody today, right, if they have the aspirations to get there, what do you think they need to be working on today?
They need to be really good at asking questions, really good at listening. It's about working with people. And so I think leadership is all about your ability to hear feedback, to request feedback, and to be open-minded to how people on your team perceive the things that you say. Because if you can get better at communicating with your people and better at acting on the things that they tell you, then they're going to want to work for you. So I think that's a skill I was lucky to hone through my first business. I started when I was 14, all the way through selling that business, consulting for hundreds of companies. It was all about just collecting feedback, listening, and then showing progress, showing momentum.
Got it. No, that makes sense. And so then if you've been developing companies since you're 14, from your 14-year-old self to your current self, the different strategies for customer acquisition have possibly evolved, or they maybe stayed the same. So from your perspective, what do those kind of look like, or what challenges have you faced? What are you currently kind of doing that's working for you guys? Just go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, so customer acquisition, I think, depends on the stage of business that you're at. So at any age, whether I was 14 or my second business when I was in my 20s or third business, at any early stage business, your customer acquisition strategy is like warm contacts and word of mouth. You're just trying to get people to use the thing that you've got, right? And then as you get that initial proof point, you get those customers and you get some good feedback. Hopefully they're referring you to their next network. And so your focus should be on testimonials and case studies and reviews and any way that you can leverage the success you had with your early customers to get that next ring of customers. And then as the business gets more mature, you're relying more on either building a sales force or having the digital marketing strategies to bring in all the inbound traffic. And so at Trainual, we predominantly rely on inbound leads. We do a ton of digital marketing. We do a ton of content that we put out. And and that's what it's all about.
Nice. Awesome. So then any, I guess, the direct marketing or the direct response type style, is that kind of not the Trainual way, or not the way that you've seen to be most effective?
No, actually, our Facebook ads, we optimize for conversions, and it is a pretty direct response kind of process, but you're signing people up for trials in a SaaS application. And we've even gone a step further with direct response and just started doing direct mail campaigns, which is, like the old school sales letters, but shipping bigger packages, things people won't throw away. Even as a consultant, I wrote a book and I would send out copies of my book to people, and I had an amazing close rate on sending out those copies. So however you define your prospects, engage them in a conversation, and then close the deal, there's a lot of ways that can work.
Yeah, that's a huge pattern interrupt. I mean, if a box showed up at my doorstep and I'm like, I didn't order Amazon, what's going on here?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So then if you could share, this is like a moment where you can actually share some advice that you would give to other executives out there or other aspiring entrepreneurs. Just what is one piece of advice that they could take away from this podcast?
I would say put your product or service out before it's ready. So as a entrepreneur or as a first-time leader or something, you might want to do something. You might want to make a change in the business or launch some product or service, and you want it to be perfect. And that perfectionism is like an Achilles heel for most people. And it can really hold you back from actually getting feedback from your customers to build the eventual right thing. And so if I could give anyone advice, it would be stop polishing and perfecting and waiting for the stars to align. Just get those first couple customers and figure out what they loved, figure out what they hated, and then change and iterate. You know, a process is something that's always evolving. And a lot of people think about processes being so repeatable and sticking to the process. But I don't think you really document and scale a process until you've perfected it, until you've figured it out. And that takes tons of repetition. So I would say, you know, don't try to have a perfect process out of the gates. Just get some feedback.
And just start going. So like just go start executing. I mean, I think the term is minimal viable product, right? Get your MVP out there and then get some feedback. And then you get to know right away. So would you typically charge for that when you're looking for these partnerships? Or do you say, hey, listen, we're looking for partnerships. We'll give you this kind of thing for the first 2 years that we're building it, but under the stipulation that you're going to give us some feedback?
It depends. I'm on my first company. It was a video production company, and I did free work just to get started to build a demo reel to go out and get paid work. But in my consulting business, I didn't do free work. I did cheap work. So I think it depends on what you're selling, whether you monetize it or not. But it really is just like do something, get feedback from someone, and use that to build the I say minimum valuable process. You know, instead of a minimum viable product, it's like what process, what thing can you do for someone that's still valuable, and then build off that.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. Thanks. So then right now, this is a pretty crucial part where you get to acknowledge somebody that you respect, that you think would make a great guest onto the podcast and, you know, be able to share a few things with us.
Oh man, so many. I guess I was just with my brother. He's our CMO and built everything that we do digital marketing wise. So Jonathan Ronzio would be a pretty cool guest. Russ Perry, CEO of Design Pickle, is a good friend of mine. Dan Martell, SaaS Academy, all great people to follow.
Awesome. All right. No, absolutely. So then we'll ask them after this. We'll say, hey, we want you on our podcast. That'd be fun. All right. And the last piece here, we like to ask a fun question, and you can share, I mean, especially with remotely, how has this changed? Or sorry, now that we've moved remotely, when you're trying to celebrate with your team, you're being that fun leader, what do you typically like to do, or how do you kind of show that with everyone?
Man, celebrating with the team. So we just did a virtual retreat, and we did where every department dressed up as a different decade. And so that was a kind of a fun way of celebrating. We've shipped out Uber Eats coupons and Postmates and had food delivered and drinks delivered to people's houses, bottles of wine for certain milestones. So I think you can be creative, but the celebration usually depends on how big the win is.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And do you guys have a department, like does your HR team handle a lot of that, or who typically handles like that piece?
Yeah, we have a people operations department. So a small team, 3 people, but they handle all things culture and fun.
And is that like a side thing, or is that their role, or is that just as an addition to their typical role?
No, that's their full-time role. I mean, it's not just fun events and things like that, but it's how do we surprise and delight our employees, keeping an employee NPS score. How do we track that everybody is satisfied, that they're in the right role, that they're properly trained, that they're following the policies. So it's really everything from recruiting, hiring, employee engagement, performance, compensation, and then just general culture building.
Yeah. And I mean, so that I've never even heard of that before. When you're developing obviously like your companies, do you have mentors, or do you have like paid coaching people that you go to help you do this? Or is this like, what's kind of been your learning journey?
Yeah, always. So initially, from very early days, I've always been in mastermind groups. So I've been a part of EO, the Entrepreneur Organization, YEC, which is the Young Entrepreneur Council, the YPO, Vistage, all these groups that are just designed to connect leaders and entrepreneurs. And I think they're super valuable. So always been in those groups, but then I've always had business coaches, advisors, mentors that I've paired up with, either paid or not paid, to meet monthly or quarterly and go over progress. So now we have a board of directors, and they've kind of filled that role.
Oh, nice. All right. Ned, this has been pretty fun. Thank you for taking the time. How can people connect with you, learn more about what you're doing, your mission? Where should they go?
Absolutely. Check out Trainual. Trainual.com is the site. And then you can look me up any social platform, LinkedIn, Instagram. I'm there all the time, or YouTube at Chris Ronzio.
All right, Chris Ronzio. All right, thank you, Chris. And for anybody else who's looking to check out some other podcasts, go to flyingvgroup.com/podcast. Take care, everyone.